Yeah.
All right, so we are live. Hello, everybody. Happy Take Charge Tuesday. We will be getting started in a few moments. We're going to allow people an opportunity to come in. So if you're here, go ahead and share the page, share the stream. And we're looking forward to having another deep, enlightening conversation tonight about Kwanzaa. Last night was a blast. Such great information. Thank you all who were chiming in with your comments. We love it. Keep the comments and the questions coming. If you have any questions about anything tonight, be sure to ask us. We'll be sharing those on screen, and we will most certainly address them. So again, happy Take Charge Tuesday. Going to give everybody an opportunity to come on in, and we're just going to make sure that we're sharing those on all our platforms.
I found this on the web.
Good evening, Dr. Shika. Thank you for joining us again. Habari Ghani family. Hello, Miss Layla. Thank you so much for joining us, Data Boss Educator. Thank you for sharing it, Miss Jennifer, with Tara. Hopefully, she'll get a chance to join us. We're going to have Principal Kafele once we start. Once again, just share what the proper greeting is. I see everyone is coming in saying Habari Ghani.
Yeah.
Good evening, Principal Presley. How are you?
Yeah, Principal Presley, good to see you.
In here with me and Principal Kafele, you let me know and I'll send you the link. We're talking about self-determination tonight. We know that is so important. Good evening, Mr. Benton. Hello, Mr. Lionel in Tampa. Is the weather much better now? Is the weather better? Here in Florida, here in Jacksonville, it's bipolar. In Jacksonville, it's just starts off very, very cold, and then it warms up, and then it gets back cold. Hello, Miss Tara. Glad you could make it. Thank you, Miss Jennifer, for inviting her. Miss Shanika, thank you for joining us again tonight. We expect the conversation to be just as enthralling and intentional as it was last night. Hello, Miss Tammy. Hopefully, you're staying warm in Virginia. Good, Lionel. Good. I'm glad to hear it's warming up there. You know, we're not used to this cold weather as Floridians.
Yeah, I know. See, we used to this.
Right.
Yeah.
Origani, Mr. Dinkins from Houston. Hey, Miss Vicky. Hopefully, everything is better today than it has been the last couple of days in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah. It's not though. It's bad.
It's still bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to deal with that.
They're not even allowed to drive.
Well, I was watching something in Seattle where they were trying to drive and they were hitting parked cars, and it was
Yeah.
really, really bad in Seattle also.
Yeah. Hit that share button, folks. Let them know we're here.
Miss Tina Habari Ghani.
Kujichagulia.
Hey, Dr. Angie. Those people with us talking about Kujichagulia tonight. I was just thinking about Dr. Angie and her quest for her doctorate, and Principal Presley and what he's doing down there in Central Florida. Self-determination is key, and I cannot wait for us to get into it tonight.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, Dr. Barfield, while you're there, and I'm not going to name your district, but I was supposed to come to your district in it's either January or February, and to a school, and we were booked. And when I called just to get further confirmation, the principal would not return my calls or my emails. And then finally, I got a secretary, and they said we're moving in another direction. So it would have been nice, nice for them to just reach out to me and say we're not going to do it after all, because I think it was like 2 or 3 visits to this same school. But that's how things go. I'll talk to you offline about that though.
Good evening, Rodney. Habari Ghani, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Dr. Barfield wants to know what.
What? Yeah. I mean, the guy would not return my emails after booking me. It was incredible. So I gave him a piece of my mind, and then we just kept it there.
We are in strange times. We all know that.
Yeah.
It's strange times we are in, right? I mean, I think the thing that most amazes me, Dr. Angie, is that we will start acting like things that we know to be wrong are right, just because the majority are now saying like it's okay. Just because 90% of you say it's okay doesn't make it okay. Some weird times we're in.
Yeah, weird.
And I agree, Miss Cora, they're lost for sure.
Appreciate that.
So we're going to give it a few more minutes, 3 more minutes. We give it that little grace time for everybody to share and get in. And we appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you again for joining us tonight. We're going to be talking about the second night. Hopefully you had an opportunity to see us last night. Watch the replay if you did not get to watch it live. Guys, we had a phenomenal conversation just about the history of Kwanzaa, its origins, as well as we talked about day 1, Umoja, which we know is unity. And we know that Kwanzaa is simply the celebration of the Black family, the Black community, and the Black culture. That is all it is. It's not a religion. It's just simply a celebration, and we abide by 7 principles with Kwanzaa. And so we're super excited to have the conversation tonight.
Absolutely. Definitely, Dr. Barfield.
So we are excited. So a couple more minutes. So continue to share the platform and let everybody know to come on in and have a conversation. And we're going to have some serious conversation again tonight. Last night, I think I would love to know, while we're waiting on these last couple of minutes, and you can just put it in the chat, what were your takeaways? What were some key takeaways from last night? I know the one big one for me was just about self-love. And if you can't have unity and collective works when there is no self-love, you have to first work on you.
Yeah.
And, accepting who you are and looking at that person in the mirror and understanding that it's okay to improve, right? Those were some of the things that I got last night. So share with us some of the things that you got from last night's conversation.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear about it. Put it right there in the chat. Anything that resonated with you. Anything that sparked something.
As we know, Kwanzaa is simply the celebration of the Black family community in our culture.
Yeah.
We had a great conversation about that last night. It's important to model what unity looks like so others can see it and run with it.
You got that right. Yeah. Gotta model it. Gotta live it. Gotta embody it.
One thing that I took away also, Principal Kafele, was just simply acknowledging one another. Just the simplicity of unity and just acknowledgement.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Not to lose me. He turned off everything today and reconnected with himself today, Principal Presley.
Yeah. Yep. I appreciate you too.
Miss Tracina says she appreciates how we address how we ignore each other and how that needs to change.
Yeah.
Being unified, speaking to one another and not living in silos.
That's right.
As educators, we must be rooted and grounded in our purpose.
Rooted and grounded.
We discuss what it means to be unified as a family, how we will speak to one another with respect. Yes, Black culture is so much more than entertainment and sports.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Facebook user, I know they gave tips last night on how you can change that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Principal Kafele, and give that tip tonight as well.
Yeah, it says what's that language again, Kim? that's your bar. My lights are on me. What's that thing that I had to switch on Facebook? Yeah, digital creator. So Facebook changed everybody's accounts to read digital creator in bold letters, right up top somewhere. And since while it's doing that, when you post on StreamYard via Facebook, it's not your name and profile pic are not going to appear. So you got to switch back to your original setting. There's a button there that just says switch back to original. It says something like that, and then you'll be able to see your name and your profile pic.
And Dr. Sheikah, I know you shared a second way. I know there's more than one way. I know a couple of people did it last night.
Sheikah and I actually talked about it, and it worked. What Sheikah and I talked about, it worked for her, but it didn't work for me. So so it's a little tricky.
Okay. All right. So it's about 8:11. So we said 8:10 before we got started. So again, Principal Kafele, again, I'll reintroduce myself for those of you who are new tonight. I am Dr. Melissa Chester. I am the co-founder and CEO of Black Educators Rock, which is, again, so much more than a Facebook group, guys. Many of you all know the Facebook group, know that we are also a national nonprofit. We host an annual professional development conference every summer. We did so through the pandemic. We did it virtually, but we are going back face to face in July. It is July 14th through the 16th in Jacksonville, Florida. More information will be forthcoming. By the end of this, we hope to have the registration link for both the conference and the hotel out to you. But Principal Kafele is always a part. He was one of my first keynotes. He was at the inaugural conference. He and Dr. Tommy Mabry, who's Dr. Tommy Mabry now, but then he was just author Tommy Mabry.
Yeah.
And we've seen him just turn into this phenomenal icon, millennial icon, because he's young and he's doing his thing. They were my first two keynotes in 2016. And since then, we've had the likes of Dr. Chika Akua, Dr. Marcus Jackson, Principal James Presley, Coach Carlos Johnson. Oh my gosh, Principal Salome Thomas L. Guys, that's just to name a few. Principal, we've had so many. Who is that?
Terrell.
Oh, cannot forget Dr. Terrell Strayhorn. Oh my gosh, powerful. Miss Merlina Valentine, Shiro Valentine, guys, and the list goes on. That's just a few of them. Because I have to say, Dr. Craig Boykin, Eric, we had Mr. Wright himself. We have Eric Cork, right? We have
talked to him a few minutes ago.
So many people. I think our conference boasts the most African American male consultants, educators, leaders, etc. I'm speaking. I don't think you can get as many as you get in our space, right? And for the price point, it is phenomenal. And so we are super excited that they all believe in Black Educators Rock and they support us. And we look forward to the upcoming ones. We have Dr. Sean Woodley. We have Onay Chapman. We have Mr. Keen Walker. These are the new ones, right? So we named those. These are the ones who've been in this fight for a while. Principal Kafele, Dr. Chicas. And now there are some new and upcoming people who will also be at the conference, and we're excited about them as well. So make sure you check us out.
And so LaRue Fitch in there.
Oh yes, Mr. LaRue Fitch, who is our baby in our group. He's also a part upcoming leader, consultant. So we're excited about those people who are a part of Black Educators Rock. So Ms. Cora says another thing that resonated is remember that walking in your purpose is hard, but it's what we signed up for when we serve in our purpose, especially serving our own. Dr. Naeem's books for his family and friends, mostly men. He writes about the direct nature of self-determination, necessary reading and learning. Yes, thank you guys. And so Principal Kafele, do you want to just give a quick overview of what Kwanzaa is for those who were not on last night?
Yeah, and let me keep Ashford Hughes up for a minute. Yeah, I'm with you, brother Hughes. I was just getting ready to pull my books off the shelf, and I said I won't. But Visions for Black Men, Dr. Naeem Akbar. Chains and Images of Psychological Slavery, Dr. Akbar. Community of Self, Dr. Akbar. Those are powerful books, everything that he wrote. So the reason I asked Dr. Chester to keep you up there is so that folks could see that name. Go to Amazon and just Google, and search up Dr. Naeem Akbar. He's one of the elders now. In fact, when I was younger, when I was in my 20s and being introduced to Dr. Akbar, I think we could call him an elder back then. He's a Floridian, but
He
now,
is in Tallahassee, Florida.
yeah. But now, he's up there, so he's not on the circuit like he used to be. But those books, they'll last forever because the message never gets old. So good stuff.
And what was the third one? I got the Vision for Black Men, Community of Self, and
Chains and Images of Psychological Slavery. There's two parts. There was that was the first one, Chains and Images of Psychological Slavery. But then he wrote part two, Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. So just powerful books. All those books, they shaped me. They molded me. I'm actually going to infuse that into my talk, my remarks tonight about Kujichagulia, self-determination, because it was those books that made me into the educator, but more importantly, into the man that I am today. I had the privilege, since we're talking about Akbar real quick, I received this award back in 1991 called Best New Author from a brother by the name of Khalif Khalifa in Hampton, Virginia. He had he was a publisher, he was a printer, he was an author, prolific author, but he had these book awards every year. So he gave me this award for my first book back in 1991, and Dr. Akbar was one of the speakers. In fact, he was the keynote speaker. So that was my first time being in his space back in 91. So I got a lot of history with his writings. But yeah, so those are the books. There's probably some others there too, but those are the three that I know most.
And someone I cannot forget to highlight and spotlight that is also very powerful, guys, and a part of the Black Educators Rock crew, Dr. Khalid El Hakim.
Oh yeah.
He has oh my gosh, his African American history
Yeah.
mobile museum,
Yeah.
powerful. He talks about imagery and how those things are personified and how they're just embedded in us, and things that we don't even subconsciously realize have influenced us psychologically. So
Yeah.
he's a great follow-up behind the Dr. Naeem Akbar when you're
That's
talking
right.
about that psychological slavery, because as we all know, guys, as long as they have us enslaved psychologically, they don't need the physical chains, and that's where we are, today, and that's what we're trying to breaking these chains of psychological slavery.
That's right. Hey y'all, hit that share button. Hit that share button. Let them know we're here. Tag somebody. Let them know we're here. There are folks in different places who are having Kwanzaa celebrations or Kwanzaa get-togethers in various parts of the country. Kwanzaa is celebrated by millions of people. But in this new age of virtual communication, virtual presentations, etc., a lot of Kwanzaa programs are taking place right on these platforms. I had one that I was supposed to do later in the week, but it doesn't, it conflicts with my schedule, so I couldn't do it. But every year since 2020, it's not like that's a long time ago, but I've been doing Kwanzaa presentations virtually. So so we're in it. This is a Kwanzaa ceremony. It's a talk. So if you didn't go out to one, you're in the midst of one. It's just
Amen.
yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely. This is. That's what this is. So you asked me what you ask me to do?
Just give them a quick overview of what, why, where, the when, where, why, how, for those that were not here last night.
For those who weren't with us last night, I won't go all into it, but I will say this: the video is sitting on my page. It's sitting on the page you're watching us. So whatever you're watching us on, yesterday's video is there. So please take a look at it if you weren't with us yesterday, because I did an overview of the. Hang on. Hang on. Okay, I did an overview of of the origins of Kwanzaa yesterday. So just in just in a nutshell, it was created in 1966 by Dr. Maulana Karenga, and it was created as a cultural holiday slash celebration. Right? It is not a religious holiday. It doesn't conflict with your religion. So whatever your religion, you can continue to practice that religion and simultaneously celebrate Kwanzaa, right? So there's no contradiction whatsoever because we're not talking about spirituality. We're talking about the culture of Black people, right? So it's a celebration specifically of the Black family, the Black community, and Black culture, right? And it encompasses there are these five fundamental practices that I talked about last night: ingathering, commemoration, recommitment. I'm missing one, and reverence for the Creator and creation, and ultimately the celebration. But then the seven principles is the purpose, right? It's everything is wrapped around these seven principles called the Nguzo Saba. The first one, unity, which is pronounced in Kiswahili, umoja. The second, self-determination, which is what we're in right now. So each principle coincides with a day, right? So we're in the second one right now, self-determination, Kujichagulia. Tomorrow will be collective work and responsibility, Ujima. The day after will be cooperative economics, Ujamaa. The day after that will be purpose, Nia. The day after that will be creativity, Kaumba. And then the last one, faith, Imani, right? So those are the seven principles, the 7 days, Kiswahili and English, which takes us to where we are right now. We're in the midst of Kujichagulia, self-determination. And Dr. Karenga, he gave these specific definitions when he created Kwanzaa not necessarily in by himself, but had it was a collection of brothers and sisters who were there and worked with him in creating this thing that has sustained itself for now 56 years, the African American holiday of Kwanzaa. No, it doesn't have its origins in Africa in terms of a Kwanzaa celebration in Africa. The first fruit celebration, which is the harvest, took place in Africa, continued to take place in Africa, and he was able to borrow from various different elements of African culture and create this holiday called Kwanzaa. Right. So a lot of times people will say, but they don't celebrate Kwanzaa in Africa. No, it was created here in America, here in the United States for the African American population, right? Which has now spread. It's practiced in the Caribbean. There are people in Africa who practice Kwanzaa, right? There are people in various parts of the world who celebrate Kwanzaa, but its origins are right here. Why? Because as African American people, we had no holiday to call our own, culturally speaking. That holiday where we can celebrate ourselves, our families, our community, our culture. It did not exist. So we found ourselves celebrating holidays that contradict our struggle.
Yes.
Right. So we wanted something that we can embrace. It's hard to be Black and embrace a Columbus Day. It's hard to be Black and embrace a Thanksgiving. It's hard to be Black and embrace a 4th of July.
Well,
Right.
Principal Kafele, it's hard to be Black and embrace those things when you have knowledge.
Yeah, when you have knowledge, man,
Yeah.
you know that's so key because if you don't know,
Because
then
if you don't know,
you go out here and buy yourself some fireworks and blow your hand off, right? Blow one of your fingers off, and not even realize the contradiction in what you're doing. You'll go to the little pop-up shop that shows up in your community because they in all communities across
Yeah.
America. You'll buy your $500 worth of fireworks, have an accident, blow one of your fingers off, like the football player did for the Giants, and then he went to Tampa Bay. I won't even say his name; might sue me. But we'll engage in those behaviors, not even realizing because the knowledge is not there that this is a contradiction to who you are. So
Yes.
Kwanzaa came on the scene as a means, as a vehicle for us to be able to celebrate ourselves. That's
Yes.
what it's all about.
Yes, and that was so key what we were just saying. When you're knowledgeable, when you're educated, like those holidays, they bring mixed emotions,
Yeah.
We try to, they're so commercialized, and to the point of, like we said, 4th of July is contradictory. But here we are. If we don't know, we don't know. And so this holiday was for us by us. It's for us by us. That's what we say about the Rock Conference. It's for us by us. It's FUBU. It's listen. It is for us by us, and we're unapologetic about that. There is nothing to be apologetic about. Embracing one's culture, one's true identity, one's past, one's origins, and celebrating those things. Everyone else is allowed to do that. But sometimes when we as African Americans do it, they try to label us and try to make us feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
But no other ethnicities do they have that issue. And so once you know, you know.
Got to read those books. So, you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Yeah, so we dialogue on some Kujichagulia, and I see the folks are commenting, so jump on in here, folks. Kujichagulia, self-determination. Dr. Karenga gave each of the principles their own unique definitions, and for self-determination, Kujichagulia, he said to define ourselves, to name ourselves, to create for ourselves, right? And what he's saying here, and as a matter of fact, there's another one in there that's escaping me, but it'll come to me in a second. But what he's saying here is that we got to do for self, right? So me, I'm going to use an extreme example here. When I became a voracious reader of African American history, starting in September of 1984, right? I got so deep into it because I couldn't understand, and I was a little bit more mature than say someone in grade school. I was 23 years old, so I couldn't understand why I hadn't been exposed to all that I was being exposed to now, meaning in 1984. So I got so excited and became so intrigued by what I was reading that I was literally buying new books every week. I was going up to a store in Harlem, New York City called Liberation Bookstore, world famous Liberation Bookstore, and just buying, like coming out of there with like 5 books every Saturday and going back home and just reading and reading and reading and studying. And my mind is, I'm saying, like, why didn't I know this? Why didn't I learn this? Why was I never exposed to this kind of information? So I got so deep into it that before 84 had expired, here we're talking September 84, before 84 had elapsed, I had decided I want a name that speaks to what I'm learning, but simultaneously speaks to where I'm headed. So I had, by that time, before New Year's 1985, I had been exposed to Dr. Karenga. I had been exposed to Kwanzaa. And I said, I need a name that speaks to this new knowledge that I have. So I'm searching in all these name books, and I find this name that resonates with me called Baruti. And so it stayed with me. So from that point on, I started introducing myself to anybody I met. Anybody I met knew, we exchanged names. I said, my name's Baruti, right? So it just stuck. So then I needed a last name. So I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking, and I find this name that stuck with me, Kafele. And the literal meaning of it was worth dying for. And I said, I like that, but I gave it a spin. I said, the struggle for the liberation of the minds of our children is worth dying for. So it's like what Dr. Bowler said, to define ourselves, we have to decolonize our minds. That's what I'm talking about, right? The struggle for the liberation of the minds of our children is worth dying for, right? So I said, that's my name, Baruti Kafele. So when I wrote my first book in 1991, wrote it in 90 and published it in 91, self-published it, I had to put a name on it. So am I going to put my legal name, my birth name, or am I going to change my name legally? Went on and changed it legally, and we put that name on the cover. So I'm saying that to say this. I know that when Dr. Karenga says to name ourselves, he's not necessarily saying that we all should legally change our names. But for me, I took it literally and went on and rename myself. But in renaming myself, I also, I don't want to say reinvented myself, but I became something different than what I was. Right. So within that naming ourselves, I went on and redefined myself. So as he says, to define ourselves, I redefine myself in terms of who I am, right? As a man, as a black man, but also as an educator, and particularly as an educator. Right. But then I began to create for myself. So I'm not going to get into that heavy right now, but I will within
Yes.
this conversation, because I want to turn it back over to you. But I began to create for myself. So the way I've been living since 1984, but as a teacher beginning in 1988, I'm certainly living Kujichagulia because I created for myself along the way. So I broke from the status quo, and I'm taking on this challenge of teaching on my terms as a teacher, subsequently as a principal, and even now as a speaker, right? As a consultant. So let me turn it back over to you.
I mean, just what you said, just unpacking just a little bit about what you said about naming ourselves. You know, when we go back to define ourselves, name ourselves, like you're saying, so many of us we don't do that. You know, I think about Principal Kafele when I go speak sometimes to people and I speak on different topics, and how difficult it is just for people when you ask them to who are they, right?
Yeah,
And how they define themselves. Most times the way that they're defining themselves, it's not who they are. It's like adjectives or words that, you know, oh, I'm a mother. Oh, I'm a, you know, they're not really describing who they are. And I don't think many people have thought about who they are to define themselves, to name themselves,
yeah.
to create for themselves, and to speak for
That's
themselves.
that other
So
one. Speak. Yeah,
speak for
yeah,
yourselves. Yes, don't allow other people to speak for you. When you talked about renaming yourself and you said not recreate, but it's a birthing. It's becoming rebirth, and you know, and we'll talk a little bit about this tonight, you know, and that's when I think about the doctor, when people don't like to give people their handle of doctor. And so I've had people, why do you like to be called doctor? And I explain to them, because I'm not Melissa anymore, right? You don't know Melissa. Many, if you didn't grow up in Daytona Beach and Soul City projects, you don't know Melissa,
yeah,
because I became Dr. Chester. And so that's important for me, because that speaks to who I am, who I've changed into. And I don't understand why. And we'll talk a little bit about this. Like you said, we'll get into it, why it's only with us that we have a problem giving each other those titles and those accolades, right? You don't have it with other races, only with our race, where they'll want to take that from you. Like
yeah,
I get excited with a Dr. Shika and a Dr. Tammy and a Dr. Angie. Like you know, they've gotten those titles recently. Oh, you don't have to. Yes, I have to call you that because I need to say it. You need to hear it, and others need to hear it.
yeah.
We know you're just Angie, but you are Dr. Angie as well. And so you know, when you said that about defining, naming, creating, and speaking for ourselves, so many of us don't do that. We allow everyone and everything else to do it for us.
That's
And
right.
so I so appreciate you starting that conversation off that way about your name.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I posted this morning. I've been, one of the things during Kwanzaa, I always post something. Um, and as soon as I wake up in the morning, and I'm finding that this year, back in 2017, I wrote whole blog posts every morning. I'd get up and write a whole blog, about 1,000 words every morning for 7 days. This year, I've been writing these Facebook posts, and one of the things I said is, as I always say, self-determination, Kujichagulia, day number 2, and then number 5, purpose, Nia. Those are my favorites. I like all the principles, but those 2 are the ones that resonate with me most. Those are the 2 that I really can say I'm walking in intentionally every day: self-determination and purpose. And we'll talk about that on the 5th day. I think I'm back on that day, and we'll talk about purpose. But self-determination and
Hey,
purpose, they're really compatible with one another. They coincide with one another. How do you really have that self-determination if you're not walking in a sense of purpose, right? How do you really say you're walking in your purpose, but there's no self-determination to drive it, right? So that self-determination, and you know, we've been looking at it on a very individual basis, but we can also look at it collectively as family, as community, as race, as a Black nation, in terms of what it is that we need to be doing. You know, we talk about Black Educators Rock. Let's look at that. Black Educators Rock is comprised, you know, the round number rounding up would be 150,000 educators, Black educators, I might add, right? The actual number is about 147,000. So that's nothing to sneeze at either. But so you'll see all these different people, these different names posting different things on the Black Educators Rock Facebook page, which is what it was designed for. So that's not a criticism. And I won't even use the word criticism, I'll say critique. So the critique would be rhetorically, why can't we get a larger fraction of the 147,000 to the Black Educators Rock conference? See, we got them on the Facebook page, but there's a conference. And I think that collectively, all of us will complain about the quality of education of Black children. I don't think that there's anybody in Black America that hasn't had that conversation to one extent or another, in terms of the overall quality of the education of the collective Black child across America. So here, led by you, I won't take any credit for this, led by you, put out the call. We need to turn the Facebook page into something bigger, turn it into an institution, if you will. So now I keep saying you spearheaded this thing and
But it
started.
is me, because without you all, I am, because we are.
But I want to give proper due respect in terms of the vision, right? So here you put this idea out to turn the Facebook page into a conference, right? And there's Rosetta out there in Little Rock, and so you put it out there. We embraced it, and now here we had this conference. But we're averaging, if we average out the numbers over the 4 or 5 years we've done it, whatever the numbers are, we're averaging about 100 people, right? 110, 120, whatever it is, but average about 100 people, maybe 110. And that's unacceptable, because when you talk about 150,000 Black educators, then that means that we have a large chunk of the Black educator on that Facebook page. We have a large chunk of the Black educator on that Facebook page. So self-determination now, when we talk about the collective, that would be Black folks saying, Black educators, I should say, saying, we need to step up our game. We need to do better. We need more. We need better professional development. Well, we got everybody to somebody as a part of the Black Educators Rock community, whether it be the Facebook page, because they on there, or whether it be the Black Educators Rock conference. There's no excuse. We got it. So self-determination, I think that we're doing our part. We put it out there. We made it affordable. And guess what? What year did we start, Dr. Chester?
2016.
2016. We have not paid a speaker yet. Right.
And you know why? Why is that, Principal Kafele? Why don't we pay the speakers?
I mean, on specifically, if that's what the one you were looking for, I said, I don't want to be paid. And we agreed, we're not going to pay nobody till I say I want to be paid. And I made a decision. I don't ever need to be paid with this, right? I don't want to be paid. But then broader, we said this is bigger than us. Like we come in as a speaker and do a keynote, do a breakout, and then we're done. It's bigger than that. A lot of times I go to a conference, it's all right, I'm here to do the keynote. And then when I'm finished, I'm on a jet to the next destination. I don't have a connection to that conference. All I can do is hope that my message resonated with the thousands in the audience, or the 100, whatever it is, that it resonated with them, that they take it with them and impact children. That's all I can hope. But I don't have a direct connection to the organization. I don't have a direct connection to the school that we're going to sustain this relationship over a sustained period of time. But with Black Educators Rock, I do, right? Every one of us do. So it's not go in there, do the keynote, get the applause, get the check, and then I may never see you again in life, right? This is something very different. So in terms of us, looking at us first, when we talk about Kujichagulia, I can tell you definitively that we are doing our part, right? I mean, of course, we can probably work harder than we have, but no one could say that the folks that kind of lead Black educators, right? Nobody can accuse us of half stepping, right? No one can accuse us of taking days off as it relates to this conference. But the rest of us, see, when we talk about Kujichagulia, and someone might ask, how do we put that into practice? Well, I'll say first step, show up at the conference, right? It's affordable. It's 4 days long, maybe 5. I don't know what it is. It's
4 days. And then to your point, it's affordable because you all don't take any fees. So we're able to keep those costs low for the educators because it is a summer conference. It's designed to motivate you and encourage you for the upcoming year. To Principal Kafele's point, I started it because in the Facebook group, like you said, 100,000 people, like there was dread getting ready to go back to school. I'm like, what in the world? Like they were, it's time to go back to prison. I mean, like literally, it was so negative that I was like, we can't have our educators feeling this way, getting ready to go back to our babies. And so we started the summer conference to motivate you. And someone I always talk about is Joanne Bailey Matthews. She came to the first conference. She's from Central Florida. She went back to her school, and I think in a year or two, she was Teacher of the Year. And she said, I was getting ready to leave the profession, came to the Rock Conference, and it changed my life. And she's one of many who have that same story. And so as Principal Kafele has said, we keep it low. I can keep it low by them, those people who make tens of thousands of dollars speaking for their keynotes, by them giving that in kind to the Rock Conference, because nobody is giving us grants. Nobody is giving us the money that they're giving other conferences. Nobody is sponsoring our conference because it is Black Educators Rock. It's not the Black and Brown Rock Conference. It's not that. It is Black.
It's unapologetically Black.
And until Eric Garner and others, that wasn't popular to just be Black, it's called Black Educators Rock. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah. In the last couple of years during COVID, of course, it's been, cued in style to be Black, whatever it is. But we were in that space before that was attractive. And I often say that we're not, again, Black and brown. We're Black. Too often, I feel like we don't define ourselves. We're so busy fighting other people's fights and attaching ourselves to other people's causes that we get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. So we're unapologetically Black, but I'll say this about it. We want the non-Black educator to show up at that conference. We are not asking the non-Black educator to present, right? We're asking the because we want to be able to have a Black presenter to give a Black perspective, for lack of a better word, to that audience about educating Black children, right? So we're coming from that vantage point, but we want that non-Black educator who's in that school with Black children. Could be one Black child in that classroom, could be a fraction of Black children in that classroom, whatever it is, but happens to be, just hypothetically, happens to be struggling with closing that Black-white achievement gap in that classroom. Well, guess what? We want you at the Rock Conference. Right? We see, and that too is the self-determination. So we want you at the Rock Conference because we've got solutions there. We've got solutions not just in terms of education in general, but we've got solutions as it relates to, for example, cultural relevance, cultural responsiveness, student-centeredness, equity. But watch this.
Community engagement. Anything
community engagement. But then with academics in terms of content areas. We got the science people, right? We got the language arts people. We got the math people. We got the social studies people. We it's not just strategy in terms of the academic side, but we got the content area strategy, right? Not just the generic strategy. So, and then we got the leadership, and we got categories of leadership. It's not just say leadership in general, but specificity, such as when I do the virtual AP Leadership Academy, we're not talking about everybody. We're talking about the assistant principal, right? So we break that down at the conference as well, because there's so many different speakers there. You like Sean Hurt Principal Sean Hurt will break down data, right? So he'll talk leadership, or he'll talk about the classroom teacher, but he gonna go narrow and say, let's break down the data. So we got all that going on, right? So but I'm saying that I'm not saying this to promote the conference per se. I'm saying this to talk about Kujichagulia.
Yes.
Self-determination. So it's like, one of the things I noticed, Doc, last night with yesterday's session, I'm a numbers cruncher. So I'm looking at the data in terms of the view count, but then I compared it to today, and I noticed a lot of people watch the video later. So it's not just this live audience, but there's a lot of people who are going to watch the video later on. I'm going to put it on YouTube myself. I'm going to download it and do that. But I'm saying that to say that in the spirit of Kujichagulia, folks have to have a mindset that I need to grow professionally. I cannot rest on my undergraduate degree. I cannot rest on my master's degree. I cannot rest on my doctorate degree. I need ongoing professional development, but I need that professional development from people who know my struggle. I need that professional development from people who know my story, who know what life is for me in my shoes, working in urban education, working in rural education, working with young people of color, specifically working with Black children. I need to be in that setting. So that's what the Black Educators Rock Conference does. But here's what distinguishes this conference from so many of the mainstream conferences. Your access is not solely in that meeting room
At all.
to the presenter. You got the presenter between sessions. You got the presenter during a snack. You got the presenter during a meal. And some of y'all go out and hang out at night. I don't, but some of y'all got the presenter during those times as well, right? And then the banquet, you got the presenters. So you got access to the presenters in ways that you don't have at that mainstream conference. Because a lot of times at the mainstream conference, the presenter got to go on to the next conference. But with this thing being 4 days, you got access to the presenter in different ways. I will never forget when we were in Charlotte. I walked in the hotel in Charlotte, and I got there like on a Friday night or something. And there was a lot of folks in the lobby who recognized me. So I sat down on this circular couch. I'll never forget it. And one person sat with me. The next person came and sat with me. Then the next few came and sat. Man, we did a session. Hear me, somebody. I sat there and lectured for 3 hours. I hadn't even checked in yet. I had my luggage with me because folks saw me. They wanted to talk. I said, yo, let's go. It was early. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I just got off the plane. So in the mainstream conference, you don't necessarily have that kind of access to the presenter sitting in the lobby and the presenter going spit knowledge for the next 3 hours.
Yeah, it was Charlotte, North Carolina. That was our last face-to-face one. That was 2019 Charlotte, North Carolina, guys. And it was so powerful. To his point, the reason I can name the Dr. Sean Wooley's, Kwame Sarfo Mensah's, LaRue Fitch, if you tell them, they're going to tell you, like, I became an author. I've done certain things because of Principal Kafele, because of Dr. Marcus Jackson, because of Dr. Chika Akua. The mentorship, because we believe in group mentoring, the mentorship, the allyship, the cohesiveness, the collaboration, it's unparalleled. And, we often joke about the Rock Conference being the best kept secret. Principal Presley, James Presley, powerhouse within his own right. as he stated, you do not get this level of excellence. It really is the Wakanda of education.
Yeah.
Period. We did the Wakanda theme that year in Charlotte, North Carolina, because there is nothing like it. And to his point, we just have to, as individuals, think that it is important enough for us to pour into ourselves. We are the Black Educators Rock Conference. We're not blacking anybody. And I think sometimes, Principal Kafele, that alone has made people devalue us because we devalue us.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't have anybody that's attached to us that validates us, that makes us believe that it's valuable enough. But again, thank God for that collective few that started with me, Tommy Mabry, Principal Kafele, Merlina Valentine, in that order. They were the first three, and then there was Dr. Chica, and then the others came. They called on their brethren, and they said, "Hey, you guys got to be a part of it." And our list has continued to grow. And I am just thankful and honored and humbled that you guys continue to do this work with me. And I know that our year is coming. I think that our year is definitely coming, and I'm super excited about what we're going into in July.
Yep. So am I. So let's dive a little deeper into this Kujichagulia. I see what time it is, but let's dive a little deeper. I got a question. I want to holler at the audience now. I see the numbers went up a little bit. Let me holler at y'all. Here we are, December 27th, 2022. New Year's Eve is on the horizon. New Year's Day will follow at midnight, right? So as it relates to self-determination, Kujichagulia, knowing that the bulk of the folks who are on with us now and the bulk of the folks who will watch this later are probably educators, right? Or someone who has an affinity for education, right? Well, I'm going to ask you the question. In the spirit of Kujichagulia, in what ways will 2023 be different from 2022 for you, right? And I mean, even if your year was a struggle and you threw your hands up in the air and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. You know, you got this time of rejuvenation. Now, I told you yesterday, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it. This Kwanzaa week, 7 days, a time for self-reflection, a time for self-assessment, a time for self-adjustment, a time for rejuvenation, right? A time for planning, a time for preparation. So you got to block out that time. I said it yesterday, you got to disconnect. Turn everything off, turn the lights off, right? Tell the folks in your home, I got to get some me time in. Right. And now you're reflecting on the struggles of the year, but you're reflecting on why those struggles existed, the ones you had control over and the ones that you did not. But you're reflecting on it all. And now you're planning, you're plotting for next year, you're journaling. And as you plan and plot for next year and just considering what next year may look like for you, but you not going in there and waiting for next year to come to you. That's the last thing you should be doing, is waiting for the year to come to you. Let me walk into the year and see what it presents for me. That's the wrong mindset. The mindset is, I'm stepping into the new year and I'm bringing this new attitude, this new mindset, and I'm going to impact change. I'm going to make things happen for my life. And this is the strategy. This is what I'm going to do. And it is rooted in the goals that you set during this Kwanzaa week. So you're going to have a whole GPS system that you've created, right? So your roadmap is there. Now all you got to do on January 1st is press the button and then you start walking in it. That's got to be the mindset. I always say, and I said it today, when somebody in the world, I don't even remember what it was, my son and I were watching something, and I said, I know what it was. We were watching this documentary on the basketball player Len Bias, who had snorted some cocaine after he was drafted the day after and lost his life, right? So one who arguably could have been one of the best players to ever live. So I said to my son, I said, it just goes down to what I've been saying to my students for years. For me, the two most important, I'll say two of the most important words in the English language, the word attitude coupled with the word decision. Right. See, attitude in isolation is not good enough, because you can have a strong, solid attitude that's so overwhelmingly positive. You got the best attitude on in the universe. However, with that crazy positive attitude that you have, you make bad decisions simultaneously.
Mm.
So you have killed everything about your attitude because your decision making was deficient. Your decision making was flawed. So I'm saying, so I used to hang up my buildings as a principal, the words attitude and decision hung up all over the place, but not just on the wall, because you may not look at the wall when you pass in class. So what did I do? I hung them from the ceiling. Right. So now as you're walking down the hall, you can't avoid those two words in your face: attitude and decision. So I said that to go all the way around the world, to come back to the folks on the call right now, and the folks who'll see the video. What will you do? I'm being rhetorical, but you could put it right in the comment. What will you do differently going into 2023 to realize your goals, to realize your dream, to realize your vision? And how hard will you go? Will obstacles stop you? Will challenges stop you? Will negative people stop you? Will people who you've allowed to have influence on you but don't agree with your decision making stop you? Because see, we could have them folks in our lives too. They mean well. These are not bad people. These are not negative people. These are people who may have influence over your thinking. They're in your space. They're in your psyche. Will you allow them, because they don't believe in your goal, to interfere with your progress? They don't mean well. It's just that what's for you is for you. So they can't relate to what you have in your mind as to what it is you want to achieve. So because they can't relate to it, or they can't identify with it, then they come to you like, yo, that's a little bit too ambitious. Why don't you bring that down a little bit and like try this thing here? And the reason that they say that to you is because they don't see themselves achieving it. So because I don't see myself as one who can achieve it, I don't think you can either. So therefore, I'll put a glass ceiling on you because of the limitations I have on myself. Right?
Yes.
So that Kujichagulia, man, here you are. It's a fire burning inside of you that you said, nah, forget that. I appreciate your comment, but I'm getting ready to achieve the impossible. I'm pursuing the impossible. I'm not intimidated by anything, and ain't nobody going to stop me. This is mine.
Yes. Now I have to give this is my soror one, but you guys, I told you I wear a lot of hats, so this is the Black Educators Rock hat. But I am also a realtist, and a realtist, guys, we're people who could not be real. So realtists exist because at one time Black people could not be realtors. The National Association of Realtors would not allow us to become realtors. We would get our respective licenses in our respective states, and they would say, no, Black person, you cannot become a realtor. So 12 African Americans, 11 men and 1 woman created their own organization to rival NAR, and it was called NAREB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. And since we could not be realtors, we were realtists. And that was the way that we opened doors for Black folks, how we bought, sell, and invested in real estate. And so we exist today. We're all over the country, local boards all over the country. We have a national organization. I serve as the local board president here in Jacksonville. And so when we're talking about Black wealth building through real estate. That is one of my hats that I wear with passion. As someone who grew up in the projects and whose mother rented for 27 years before being displaced, we have to start understanding that home ownership is the first step to generational wealth. And I could not bypass saying how important this is, guys, generational wealth and building our wealth. So thank you, Sora LaDonna, for that comment. I loved what John said he was going to identify where he needs to increase his collaboration, his engagement, his knowledge, practice, and wisdom. Principal
Yeah, good
Preston,
stuff,
he's
John.
right. Decisions kill good attitudes.
That's right.
Right? Those two words are so important.
Yeah.
So, what will you do? Will obstacles, challenges, or negative people stop you? It's truly up to us.
Kujichagulia.
Yes, and I love what she says. I'm not here to maintain the status quo. I'm here to dismantle the status quo.
Yeah.
And so important. Vicky, surround myself with those who believe in me and encourage me to do better. These are the answers to Principal Kafele's question that he was asking. So, guys, think about what you're going to do, right? She says she's stepping into her purpose and she's encouraged by her people, a people who persevere because I am going for it. No fear. I'm stepping into it. Self-determined.
I love it. You know, let's add to that. Let's go back to Dr. Karenga's definition to define ourselves. I want to use that for a second. Hey, folks who are on this call right now, if you were to take out your smartphone, maybe some of y'all are watching on a smartphone. So you go to the dictionary app. If there's a word you're looking up because you want clarity on the definition, that word is there if you spelled it correctly. And there's a definition there. But I want you to imagine that there was no definition. That you looked up this word, you spelled it correctly, and there was a blank space next to it. That would mean two things. Number one, the word has no meaning. But bigger picture, it's not even a word, because a word has a definition just based on definition of a word. So if it has no definition, it's not even a word. It's nothing. It's just a group of letters. So now let's transfer that to you. Dr. Karenga's definition: to define ourselves. I'm asking somebody out there, have you defined you? Or have you let someone else define you? Because if you haven't self-defined, then next to your name is a blank space. And therefore, I don't mean to be harsh, but therefore you are nothing in the context of what I'm saying. Now, I don't want anybody to get mad. Oh, I don't like what you just said. No, in the context of what I just said, you have no meaning because you have no definition. It's just your beautiful name with a blank space next to it. You have to define you. And then as you define you, now you have to walk in you, and that conjures up that other word, purpose, right? So think about it, somebody, and bring your mirror up while you think about it as you self-reflect. Does your life have a definition next to it? Does your name have a definition next to it? Does your practice, those of you who are educators, does your practice as an educator have a definition next to it? Or are you just the teacher, just the principal, just the counselor? Like, what does that mean? You going on a job description definition? Not me. I got a definition that's like, it's revolutionary, man. It's a definition, and in some cases, it's a definition. If the powers that be knew my definition, they might run me out of town, right? So I don't have to share my definition. I just got to know what it is, and that's critical. That's self-determination. That's Kujichagulia.
And that self-determination goes right back into that, talking about self-love, like we were talking about last night. You first have to love yourself in order to have self-determination. You got to appreciate everything that you are, everything that you have been, so that you can be self-determined for everything that you will be. Right? Embrace your past, embrace that present, and so that you can flourish in the future. And so, answer these questions, guys. You have to, only you can answer these questions. Nobody can answer them for yourselves. Like we said earlier, define yourself, name yourself. We have to name ourselves. We have to define ourselves. We have to speak for ourselves. We've allowed other people to do it for us too long. As Sora LaDonna said, we have to tell our history. Stop letting people tell it to us, right?
I love it. Let's look at it. There's another word in that definition. Let's look at that word create. And we'll get to creativity. We can go deeper with it, but let's look at that word create. Create for ourselves. Hey, somebody on the call right now. Hey, somebody who will watch this video later. What have you created that's never existed before? Right? What's that thing? Like, I think about when I was a teacher, I was working so closely with the social studies supervisor. But in terms of just my work in my classroom, she's up my supervisor. She wasn't my principal though. But I went to her one day and I said, hey, Doc, would you be able to work some kind of magic in the curriculum department and allow me to write? Now, hey, I'm a fifth grade teacher. I'm like 33, 34 years old. I said, and allow me to write a K-12 curriculum of African American history for this entire district. Will you? Can you work something out? And she said, I think I can. And she went to talk to the right people. And I spent that entire summer with a tiny little stipend as a fifth grade teacher writing a K-12 curriculum of African American studies. So the kindergarten all the way to the senior year curriculum. Now, I'm not going to mention the name of the district because the only person in that district, as far as I know, that used that curriculum was moi, right? So it was there, and I think I could bet my house that curriculum is still sitting somewhere in that curriculum department collecting dust, right? So if somebody in there's folks on here that know me, then they know where I'm talking about, right? If you're somebody in that district that complains that we don't have this and that, back in 1994, 95, this guy wrote a K-12 curriculum for that entire school district, right? So even though folks were afraid of it, I created it. But then when I became a principal in that same district, I went to their superintendent. I said, Doc, the school is called Sojourner Truth Middle School. We were a magnet school district, public schools. Sojourner Truth Middle School of Science and Technology. I become principal in 99. Hey, Doc, we're missing something. What's that, Kafele? African-centered studies. Will you allow me to reinvent, so to speak, this school so that we're not just science and technology? We are Sojourner Truth Middle School of Science, Technology, and African-centered studies. He said, all right, I'm after negotiating, I'm gonna let you do it, but I'm gonna hold you accountable. No problem, man. We did things in that school in terms of curriculum and instruction that I really doubt anyone in America had done at that point. In fact, Dr. Akua wrote about it in his dissertation, right? So we had done some incredible things, but here's my point, because I'm not even going to get deep into what we did. My point is Kujichagulia. I defined what I wanted. I named what I wanted. I named that the school, the Institute of African-Centered Studies. I created what I wanted, and I spoke it into existence. See, that's Kujichagulia, y'all.
Yes.
That's self-determination. Don't tell me about no powers that be. Use your people skills. Use your collaboration skills and make things happen that seem to be impossible. It's doable. But you got to live. See, you can't just be Kujichagulia in
the word, and it's cute.
In December. December, I'm down with Kwanzaa. Because those people exist too. I'm down with Kwanzaa. I celebrate Kwanzaa. But if you really celebrate Kwanzaa, then that means Kwanzaa's part of your life in April, right? Kwanzaa's part of your life in July. and November, not just December 26th to January 1st. So if you're really serious, you got to take that principle of Kujichagulia and you got to infuse it into you. You got to incorporate it into you. You got to live this thing. It's got to be who you are.
It's like Dr. MJ said, Dr. Marcus Jackson, that's our MJ education. Like he said, your definition, but make sure that your definition matches your actions. In other words, make sure your words and your actions are matching.
That's
right.
You got to
make sure they're matching. So important. You know, listen, we know that actions speak louder than words. So we hear you saying it, but do we see you living it? You know, there are certain people that are part of Black Educators Rock. We know they are Kwanzaa. They are, like he said, Umoja. They are Kujichagulia. It's every day. It's in their everyday living. It's in what they do daily. And so we're, again, our whole goal for this Kwanzaa was it not just being something that's cute for 7 days, but it's something that we do for the next 358 days, right? It's for 365. We just do a recentering and a reinvigorating of it every year this time. That's right. It's just to bring us back to ourselves and oh, what can we accomplish when we do that? Right? What can we accomplish when we do that?
And you know something, Dr. Chester, Dr. Karenga, with that definition to define ourselves, to name it's etc. He doesn't have it written in the definition, but if you ever go hear him speak, then he there's an extension to that says instead of being defined for, created for, named for, and spoken for by others. See, that's the extension that he just doesn't have in writing in the definition. But that's the complete definition, right? So are we going to do it ourselves, or are we going to allow somebody else to do it for us? And in so many cases, I mean, going back to my example of the conferences, right, with 147,000 people, okay, we'll go to the mainstream conference, right? And now being spoken for by others, being defined by others. You got people doing those presentations that don't know you, that don't know your struggle, that ain't been, and I'm using the word ain't deliberately, ain't been in your environment, but you being defined by that instead of seeking out a conference of people who look just like you.
Of like mind, people who we as Dr. Tommy Mabry said when you were interviewing him this past Saturday, you know, that was me. I was that student. The reason I love what I do because that was me in that classroom. And a lot of times, a lot of us forget that when we become the teacher, when we become the instructor, the professors, we forget, we lose ourselves. We lose a part of our past, which our past is who shapes who we are. And it definitely contributes to who we're going to be. And so never, ever, ever be ashamed of your past and who you were, because that is what contributes to who you are. And so, again, to your point, Principal Kafele, like you're saying, why aren't you there? Why are you allowing other people to define you, to speak for you? Right? We have to start doing that for ourselves. And the only way to do it is to do it. Not to say we're going to do it, but to do it. If you go to rockconference.org, you can look at our conferences from 2016 up to the last virtual one we had, and you can see the names for yourselves. The featured speakers and presenters. You have highlight reels, you have interviews. Go on there at any time and just check it out and just see what you've been missing and just commit to not missing anymore.
That's right. That's right. And put Dr. Barfield back up there.
About Dr. Browder?
Yeah, let me see that. So our outgoing Sue partnered with Dr. Tony Browder and his amazing daughter Atlantis, to write an African-centered curriculum for high school students. Myself and the Black students here demanded better, and he delivered despite the anti-Black mindset some had. So Dr. Barfield, because I saw it while I was speaking, but I couldn't read it while I was talking, but I saw Browder's name. Now, when I told you we created the Institute, this was, again, Kujichagulia, self-determination. We wrote a curriculum called Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization for grade 7. And we use the book of the same name, Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Dr. Tony Browder. So imagine that now. We took because I'm sure you know the book. So we took a book, a college level book, and used it with seventh graders, and had an excellent teacher who actually wrote the curriculum, Brother Hubert Chase, and those kids were mesmerized by the information that they were receiving. But see, it took. I got to keep referring to self-determination. It took my self-determination, Kujichagulia, to be able to convince a board of education to accept that book as a part of what we were doing. Because that book, Dr. Browder's research and Dr. Akua and Browder are very close. So he can talk about them a lot more better than I can. But Dr. Browder's book is unapologetic about the fact that the ancient Kemites, which would be Egyptians, were black.
That's right.
Right. So we brought that book in there and expose them young people to that truth.
And Dr. Chica will be on tomorrow. Dr. Barfield is going to join us, as well as Dr. Khalid El Hakim, because what is tomorrow, Principal Kafele?
Tomorrow's Ujima.
And that means
collective work and responsibility.
Collective work and responsibility. So we'll be having a collective, and we'll be talking about what it means to us in the work that we do. And again, all of them are a part of the BER family. Super excited about it. Having them join us. And so she said they wanted to call this learning CRT, and we know that's the trick. We know that's the trick, Dr. Andrew. We know that's the trick, right? They always want to call it that. Dr. Woodley, we hope you heard our shout out earlier.
Well, good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes. So we are excited. We are excited about tomorrow night as well. And self-determination, again, as Principal Kafele has said, and as Dr. MJ stated, you have to define who you are, right? Take this time, these next 6 days that we have left, go into self-reflection, go into your quiet space and place, meditate, do whatever you need to do to call forth your best self, define yourself, and get determined for what you want to do for 2023 and continue to do it from 2023 on. Right? Don't let it just be a year thing. Let it be from now on ad infinitum. Isn't that what you said earlier this morning? Which curriculum are you referring to, Dr.? Curriculum?
He's talking about the one. He's talking about mine. And see what I got to do. Everybody wants that curriculum because I talk about it. I got one copy here that I took from the school when I moved on, and somehow, some way, I got to make it available. I'll figure it out. Stay connected to me because everybody wants it and it's still relevant, right? I just got to figure it out.
Yes, make who and what you have worked to become highly valuable to the wider Black community. Yes, I love that, John, because you are definitely needed.
And I appreciate that. What you sent me, that link you sent me this morning too, John. Appreciate that. Good stuff.
Yes, Dr.
Yeah, that's
and we're gonna have to get Principal Kafele is going to figure that out. He's going because he has to, and that we're going to be talking about a whole lot of things that we won't talk about now, but in that collective work and collective spaces, in due time we will be sharing. But we do have some. Dr. Sean said that curriculum is a prized possession.
Yeah, everybody.
We got to figure it out. We just have to figure it out.
Because see that curriculum in terms of Tony Browder, that was only one. Now I wrote two others. I wrote African American History 1 for grade 6 and African American History 2 for grade 8. And then we did Nile Valley in between. But I used, in fact, I got this book right here. I don't feel like digging under there. I use Malefi Asante, Dr. Malefi Asante's book, Journey to Liberation. Matter of fact, since I teased it, let me just get it. Here we go. So IU, take that down for me so I can put this in the screen. Yeah, so this is the book that I use. This is the best textbook for middle and high school age students ever written. Right? I'll put my name on that one. African American History is actually the subtitle. The title is Journey to Liberation by Molefi Asante. You could probably get it on Amazon, but this is a thick textbook, and that's the curriculum that I wrote sitting right here. That I only got one copy. Sojourner Truth Middle School, Institute of Science, Technology, and African Centered Studies, African American History 1 and 2, grade 8 and grade 6. But yeah, this is the book, and there's not a better textbook. You know, obviously there's a lot of children's books out here, but in terms of a textbook, this is it, right? Molefi Asante, who created the first PhD program in for African studies in the world, right? First PhD program. He's a very close comrade with Dr. Karenga too.
That's right, Tina. Make sure you what is your definition? Don't allow anyone else to define you. You define you. And Mr. Hughes, you said you're gonna push the education landscape inside the system, but utilize the community work for education will take root quicker outside the system. Model the Mississippi and Philly Freedom Schools.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Dr. Angela says she needs a library card to come visit your collection. I think there have been quite a few asking for that visit, Dr. Angie. He knows that once you let those books go, a lot of times they don't come back, so he doesn't.
Yeah. Let me before we wind up, let me let people know where they can get my book list. You know, everybody. Well, no, some people have book lists of suggested readings. Well, I have a book list that I created, and it's evolved over the years, and it needs to be updated, but it's still a good list of about 150 books. If you go to either my website at principalkafele.com, or you can go to my blog page at Principal Kafele Writes with an S.com, either one, and scroll on the website. It'll take you to the blog page. So scroll way down, because I write a lot of blog posts, man. So you got to scroll way down, and it'll say suggested reading, Principal Kafele suggested reading for educators of Black children, right? And it'll have it. I break it up into about 10 different categories. So there's history books, and these are for the adults, right? So there's history, African history, African American history, teaching Black males, psychology as it relates to Black students. There's just a lot there, right? So just go to that. Go to either way, principalkafele.com or principalkafelewrites.com, and scroll way down, and you'll see that suggested reading list. You can just print it out or do whatever you want with it. Save it on your desktop, whatever, and check them out.
And I did put that information in the chat, principalkafele.com.
Okay.
I put his website in the chat, and like you said, just scroll down. Get the list, like Dr. Range said, then order from a Black bookstore.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a time, you said it. I got to say this. What a time we lived in the 80s and early 90s, where, children will learn about, in one form or the other, they'll learn about the Harlem Renaissance. But what a lot of children don't learn, and what a lot of adults frankly don't know, is that there was a second Renaissance, and it occurred in the 80s into the 90s until the internet came. And at that time, there were over 1,000 Black-owned bookstores, including in Jacksonville, including in Dayton, where you are, Daytona, where you are, Tallahassee, all over the place. You had Black bookstores all over America. So now the Black author, this is Kujichagulia, the Black author had an outlet, because myself, I'm an ASCD author. ASCD, one of the most widely known publishers of education books on the planet. I'm an ASCD author. I'm a best-selling ASCD author. My books are some of the top-selling books under the ASCD banner. But Barnes and Nobles and some of the other popular bookstores, they won't touch my books, right? Won't touch them. My books are never in those stores, but I'm good with that. But as a point of information, so I don't have I got access to Barnes and Noble online, but let's say somebody went into a store, a buyer, and they never heard of Baruti Kafele, right? Well, they're not going into the store looking for my books then. So Barnes and Noble, as an explanation to me, they say to me, we don't carry your books because we don't have people seeking your books out. I said to them, I said, you mean to tell me every book in this store, there's people that seek them out? People don't like stumble on a book and buy it, right? So for me, that's the explanation. So they only sell it online. But I'm saying that to say this. So in the 80s and 90s, we didn't need Barnes and Noble because we had over 1,000 bookstores nationally and internationally. I was sending books to Europe. I was sending books to the Caribbean. In fact, I sent books to Ghana once, right? So we had bookstores all over the nation, different parts of the world, and we had an outlet. So now you got all these Black authors who had an outlet to sell their books. But then when the internet came, now people and your Amazon started selling all those books that the mainstream traditionally would not touch. Now it put those bookstores out of business. You remember yesterday, Doc, I said to you, I had a bookstore. So I was a part of that network, right? So now the internet put them out of business. Now it's just a handful of those stores left. So books like when I said Civilization of Barbarism yesterday by Sheikh Anta Diop, that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get online as opposed to what it was back in that day. So back in them days, man, we had outlets. You had Black authors, you had Black publishers, and then you even had a couple of Black printers. One of them was Khalif Khalifa in Newport News, Hampton, Virginia, that I mentioned yesterday. We don't have that anymore, and we got to get it back. I bring all of that up to say just another example of Kujichagulia. We were doing for self. We had our own outlets, our own distribution, and I may as well add, it wasn't just the retail side. We had the wholesale side. Lucina Books, A&B Books, both based in New York and Chicago. We had the wholesalers putting them books out there. I was selling hundreds of books a week at that time. My little $5 book called A Black Parent's Handbook to Educating Your Children that I published in 1991, self-published, became the Essence Magazine #1 bestseller nonfiction. I'm hustling that book. That was my means of income for 2 years. I didn't have a job. My job was selling them books every day. It paid the bills, right? So now I'm hustling them books. I'm on the subways in New York City, going uptown to Harlem, going to Brooklyn, hustling these books, sending them to the wholesaler down on West 24th Street in New York City, and then hitting them stores directly. Books were moving. We selling hundreds of books every week. We don't have that anymore. Kujichagulia, we need it back. We had a second Harlem Renaissance that a whole lot of people are not aware of. A whole lot of great authors, your Dr. Benz and your Dr. Clarks of the world, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakin and Dr. John Henry Clark, and all those books of that generation, they were being moved by that Renaissance. That's how it was happening.
Yeah, we're losing our Black newspapers. We're losing it all.
Oh, you said newspapers. Those newspapers were one of the organs that was giving us the publicity.
Yeah.
And then we had the Black talk radio stations, not the music stations. We had Black talk radio all over the country. So now now us as authors, we can come on those. I used to do so much radio back in them days. We come on those stations and promote our books and talk about what it is that we do. And now we had an outlet of millions of people listening to us to move those books. All that stuff collapsed. The Black newspaper, the Black talk radio station, all of that stuff disappeared. Now you just find pockets of these stations.
But it can't all be like you said with self-determined. With Kujichagulia, we can bring it all back. And Shanidra, you're not gonna steal our thunder. How do we access the books? Principals can buy them. We're gonna be talking about that tomorrow with our third concept, the collective work. So you just stay tuned. We want to see you tomorrow because
but in terms of how to bind a book, if she's talking about that, my suggested reading list, a lot of them are right on Amazon. So you can just go to Amazon and get them. If you know of Black bookstores in your area or Black retailers on the internet, then certainly go to them first. You know, anything less would be a contradiction of Kwanzaa. So if you know of them, then certainly go to them. But if you don't know, if you can't find them on Google and all that kind of stuff, then we got to go mainstream.
We thank you, Shanidria. But we're going to be talking about when he was saying we need those things back, is what I was alluding to, because we do have to get those things back, the Black publishing, the Black things, and some of us have done it. We've kind of played with it, but it's time to get serious about it. It's time to get back into that again, that umoja, that unity, and that Kujichagulia, that self-determination. So I'm super excited about it. And so tomorrow, of course, is day 3, as I stated. And that's right. That's the one thing we're going to be talking about tomorrow, Shanidra, about principles and budgets and buying books in bulk. I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to just mention them, but OSG, there's an organization that we're collaborating with, BER, and they do some phenomenal work as it relates to that collective works. And so we will be talking a lot about that tomorrow. So yes. You're welcome. I believe in saying people's names correctly. That's something that's big for me. And so with that being said, we look forward to having you guys tomorrow night. We're going to, again, have some visitors. So we're going to have Dr. Chika is going to be on, who has written a whole book on Kwanzaa. We're going to have Dr. Angie, and we're going to have Dr. Khalid El Hakim, who has the Mobile African American History Museum. They're going to be on with us tomorrow. But we do want to give Principal Kafele and myself just an opportunity to wrap up. And so, Principal Kafele, what parting words do you have for our people?
I think I said everything that I got on my mind tonight. Just walk in the spirit of Kujichagulia, folks, and make sure you introduce it to the children in your lives. You know, not just the ones in school, but the ones in your lives outside of school. You know, it's not enough for you to hoard all the information. They got to know it too. So do that, and then stay connected to me on Facebook. You know, I'm writing these commentaries every morning. As soon as I wake up, I just sit up in the bed and start writing. And I'll have one for Ujima tomorrow, probably by 8 o'clock. You know, so just stay connected to me all week long. I'll be doing it for 7 days, and you know, and other little Kwanzaa tidbits as well. You know, I've been doing a lot of posting this week.
And just know that, again, our goal is for this to just be not just for these 7 days, but we want to make sure that we're taking this into 2023 and beyond. We are committed to bringing you guys some new resources and new outlets and new ways to collaborate and to connect. And so please, if you're not a part of Black Educators Rock, become a part, because again, we're so much more than a Facebook group. We're a nonprofit. We have a membership. We have a $50 general membership and a $100 edupreneur for our educators who are also entrepreneurs. You can reach our websites through either rockconference.org or blackeducatorsrock.org. As Principal Kafele said, when we got that group to 150,000, our thought process was, if we just get 10% of 150,000 people, you know, that was enough for our membership and our conference. And unfortunately, that was not where the mindset was. We didn't talk a lot about it, but we had to do a lot of shifting of mindsets in that Facebook group. That Facebook group became a place where Black educators sounded more like other educators than other educators. They were just not about our children. And so we spent some time just kind of reworking that space and make sure they understood that you're either a part of the problem or the solution. And we're not allowing you to be a part of the problem in the group. And so if you've noticed over the years, if you've been in there for a while, you saw it go from a lot of complaining to we're solution oriented. We're positivity. We know the problems in our communities. They're not new. We know the problems within our families. They're not new. What we need is new and innovative ways to deal with those things. And those are the things that we want you guys to keep sharing. And so with that being said, we look so forward to you all joining us tomorrow night for our 3rd day. Like we said, Dr. Chika will be here, Dr. Angie Barfield, and Dr. El Hakim, Dr. Khalid El Hakim. And so I am looking forward to having that conversation. And so, guys, enjoy the rest of this night. Remember, define yourself. Your task tonight is to go define yourself. Speak for yourself. How was it, Principal Kafele? Let me put it back up there because we want to make sure everyone does it. Define yourself.
Name yourself.
Name yourself. Create for yourself.
Create.
Speak for yourself. That's your task for tonight. And we look forward to having you guys tomorrow night. Kujichagulia. We love you guys. We will see you tomorrow. And thank you for joining us. Good night.